Okay, moving on. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Take a census of the Kohathite, now make sure I get that right, branch of the Levites by their clans and families. Count all the men from 30 to 50 years of age." So now we're specifically delineating them between 30 and 50, "who come to serve in the work of the tent of meeting. This is the work of the Kohathites in the tent of meeting, the care of the most holy things. When the camp is to move, Aaron and his sons, that is the priests, are to go in and take down the shielding curtain and cover the ark of the testimony with it." So you couldn't see the ark even when it was being transported, because they would take its separating curtain and cover it with it when it was being moved. Then they are to cover this with hides of sea cows, spread a cloth of solid blue over that, and put the poles in place. So they had this pretty well wrapped up. 3 different layers of coverings were used to cover up this thing. Over the table of the presence, that's the table where they put all their bread and stuff, they are to spread a blue cloth and put on it the plates, dishes, and bowls, and the jars for drink offerings. We're going to get more into detail about these drink offerings a little bit later on, but they offered drink offerings with their burnt and their bull and goat and ram offerings. They also, and grain offerings too. They also offer drink offerings as well. The bread that is continuously there is to remain on it. Over these they are to spread a scarlet cloth, cover that with hides of sea cows, and put its poles in place. So I'm guessing they kept all this stuff on the table. They put a cloth on the table, and they put all the poles and plates and dishes on it, and then covered all that up. They must have had to wrap it up pretty tightly to make sure it didn't fall off. They are to take a blue cloth and cover the lampstand that is for light, together with its lamps, its wick trimmers and trays, and all the jars for the oil used to supply it. Then they are to wrap it and all its accessories in a covering of hides of sea cows, and put it on a carrying frame. So you couldn't carry it around like this. You had to have a frame that was carried on. I'm guessing the lamps had to be unlit while this was happening. They always were supposed to leave those lamps lit continuously, but I'm guessing that's only when the tabernacle was actually in service and not while it was being moved. I'm honestly not clear on that, but I don't think you could have it lit while it was wrapped up in these coverings and transported around. So I'm guessing that they must have made an exception when the tabernacle was not in active service. Over the gold altar they are to spread a blue cloth and cover that with hides of sea cows, and put its poles in place. So they carried all this stuff by poles. We read about that back when they built it in Exodus. They were supposed to have these gold poles that were inserted through these rings in the sides of these things. And they would lift those poles up and put them on their shoulders, and that's how they would carry them. They are to take all the articles used for ministering in the sanctuary, wrap them in a blue cloth, cover that with hides of sea cows, and put them on a carrying frame. They are to remove the ashes from the bronze altar and spread a purple cloth over it. This is purple cloth, not blue. Then they are to place on it all the utensils used for ministering at the altar, including the fire pans, meat forks, shovels, and sprinkling bowls. Over it they are to spread a covering of hides of sea cows and put its poles in place. These are the priests doing this. Okay, this is what the priests do when they're ready to move the tabernacle. After Aaron and his sons have finished covering the holy furnishings and all the holy articles, and when the camp is ready to move, the Kohathites are to come to do the carrying. So they don't get the stuff ready. They're not allowed to actually touch this stuff. Only the priests are allowed to actually physically touch these things with their hands. So the priests get these things ready by wrapping them up in layers and layers, blue cloth, hides of sea cows, and other things like that. See here, we have the ark gets covered by 3 separate layers. They get covered with a blue cloth, and cover that with hides of sea cows. Put another blue cloth over that. Actually, no, excuse me. They put the curtain on top of the ark first. So you have the curtain, the tent that surrounds it is used to cover it. Then a hide of sea cows, then a blue cloth. So they have 2 or 3 layers of coverings over all of this stuff. And then that's the priest doing this. And then the Kohathites come and grab these poles and put them on their shoulders and carry it out that way. So the Kohathites are to come to do the carrying, but they must not touch the holy things, or they will die. The Kohathites are to carry these things that are in the tent of meeting. Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, is to have charge of the oil for the light, the fragrant incense, the regular grain offering, and the anointing oil. He is to be in charge of the entire tabernacle and everything in it, including its holy furnishings and articles. Now, he would be the next high priest, so he'd be the high priest in waiting. So I'm guessing the precedent here is that this is the job of the high priest in waiting, whoever that guy is down there. Now, someday, they're not going to be carrying this thing around with them anymore. I mean, to a certain extent, this covers primarily the time they spend in the wilderness. But even after they get into the land, the tabernacle itself will still be a movable tent structure with only semi-permanent residence for a few hundred years. They're going to get into the land in about 1400 BC. It's not going to be until the early 900s BC when they finally build their temple. So for that 400 years plus, 450-ish years or so, they're going to have this tabernacle instead of a temple. The tabernacle will generally be stationed in a certain place, but it can be moved even once they get into the land. But a lot of this applies primarily to this period of time they spent wandering in the wilderness. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "See that the Kohathite tribal clans are not cut off from the Levites, so they may live and not die when they come near the most holy things. Do this for them. Aaron and his sons are to go into the sanctuary and assign to each man his work and what he is to carry. But the Kohathites must not go in to look at the holy things, even for a moment, or they will die." So not only can they not touch them, they can't even look at them. They can't even go in there looking at them for a moment, and they'll die. The Lord said to Moses, "Take a census also of the Gershonites by their families and clans. Count all the men from 30 to 50 years of age who come to serve in the work of the tent of meeting. This is the service of the Gershonite clans as they work and carry burdens. They are to carry the curtains of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, its covering and the outer covering of hides of sea cows, the curtains for the entrance to the tent of meeting, the curtains of the courtyard surrounding the tabernacle and altar, the curtain for the tabernacle, the ropes and all the equipment used in the service, in its service. The Gershonites are to do all that needs to be done with these things. At their service, whether carrying or doing other work, all their service, whether carrying or doing other work, is to be done under the direction of Aaron and his sons. You shall assign to them as their responsibility all they are to carry. This is the service of the Gershonite clans at the tent of meeting. Their duties are to be under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron, the priest, the only other son of Aaron still alive. Count the Merarites by their clans and families. Count all the men from 30 to 50 years of age who come to serve in the work of the tent of meeting. This is their duty as they perform service at the tent of meeting: to carry the frames of the tabernacle, its crossbars, posts, and bases, as well as the posts of the surrounding courtyard with their bases, tent pegs, ropes, all their equipment and everything related to their use. Assign to each man the specific things he is to carry. This is the service of the Merarite clans as they work at the tent of meeting under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron, the priest. So Eleazar was in charge of the Kohathites, and Ithamar was in charge of the Gershonites and Merarites. I'm reminded of the work of a military operation where each person does one specific thing. When I went to go get vaccinated, my COVID vaccine shot, earlier this year in March, I got vaccinated. Of course, you go twice. I got the 2-shot vaccine with Pfizer. The first time in particular, I was extremely. The second time too, but the first time was my first time. First time I'd seen it. The first time I was extremely impressed by how they had the national. It was at the Gateway Center in Collinsville, Illinois, right here in Madison County, and they had the National Guard out there, and everything was very efficient. They had all the parking situation taken care of. They had the lines taken care of. They had little colored tape in the form of arrows, pointing which way to go when you got in line. The yellow, more tape kind of laid out saying here's where you're supposed to sit. Here they had the chairs laid out. They had people pointing in the right direction. Everybody does one specific thing. Everybody has a specific role that they follow, and everybody knows that role and does it. And so it was a very, very smooth operation. That's kind of like what I imagine this to be. Every man's got his task. They assign each man his task, and he does that thing, and he does it efficiently. Moses, Aaron, and the leaders of the community counted the Kohathites by their clans and families. All the men from 30 to 50. So now we've narrowed it down to those who are going to be in active service between the ages of 30 and 50. Who came to serve in the work of the tent of meeting, counted by clans, were 2,750. This was the total of all those in the Kohathite clans who served in the tent of meeting. Moses and Aaron counted them according to the Lord's command through Moses. The Gershonites were counted by their clans and families. All the men from 30 to 50 years of age who came to serve in the work of the tent of meeting, counted by their clans and families, were 2,630. This was a total of those in the Gershonite clans who served at the tent of meeting. Moses and Aaron counted them according to the Lord's command. The Merarites were counted by their clans and families. All the men from 30 to 50 years of age who came to serve in the work of the tent of meeting, counted by their clans, were 3,200. This was a total of those in the Merarite clans. Moses and Aaron counted them according to the Lord's command through Moses. So Moses, Aaron, and the leaders of Israel counted all the Levites by their clans and families. All the men from 30 to 50 years of age who came to do the work of serving and carrying the tent of meeting numbered 8,580. At the Lord's command through Moses, each was assigned his work and told what to carry. Thus they were counted, as the Lord commanded Moses. And it's a good place to stop. The next couple of chapters are going to be totally different than these two were.